In an age when satellites map every ridge and drone scanners reveal secrets once lost to time, we thought the ancient world had finally surrendered its mysteries. But then came Machu Picchu and the shock that changed everything.
It's estimated that potentially up to 60% of the construction of Machu Picchu is underground.
In 2019, geologist Rualdo Menegat used LIDAR and GPR to reveal two immense fault lines crossing beneath the site in a perfect geologic X. Updated 2025 scans confirmed the unthinkable: nearly 60% of Machu Picchu lies underground, fused into fractured bedrock, a hidden framework of stone channels and seismic chambers. Beneath the terraces ran more than rock. There was a system of flood drains and shock-absorbing foundations so precise that modern engineers liken it to a dam built inside a mountain.
It might be hiding an entrance into deeper chambers.
They did some geophysical investigations at the site, and what he thinks he found is some kind of a chamber below this door.
So what was Machu Picchu, a royal retreat in the clouds, or a fortress built to command the earth itself? The data suggests something extraordinary, not merely a city of stone, but an ancient seismic machine, a civilization that built with the planet's fault lines instead of fearing them.
Well known for their incredible stonework, which is called ashlar masonry. And the stones fit together perfectly without any mortar.
For more than a century, historians have agreed on one version of Machu Picchu's story. It was built around 1450, a royal estate for the Inca Emperor Pachacuti, a symbol of power and precision. Terraces climb the slopes in perfect symmetry. Canals still carry water across the mountain after 5 centuries. The walls lock together so tightly that even modern instruments struggle to trace the joins. That's the narrative carved into textbooks. But on the mountain itself, the evidence hints at another logic. At sunrise, the light reveals a geometry often missed by the eye. The main structures from the agricultural terraces to the Temple of the Sun align with fractures running through the bedrock. In 2019, geologist Rualdo Menegat mapped those faults in detail. His data showed that the site's key features sit exactly where 2 major fault systems intersect, forming a natural X beneath the city. To most builders, that would be a risk. To the Inca, it appears to have been an advantage. The fractures acted as natural drains, stabilizing the slopes and supplying fresh water. The builders didn't avoid the faults, they integrated them. It was not defiance of the mountain, but cooperation with it, a design that used instability to create permanence. If this was deliberate, it changes how we understand Inca engineering. They weren't simply shaping the landscape, they were reading it and building directly from its code. If nearly 60% of Machu Picchu lies underground, why has so little of it been uncovered? The answer may lie in the mountain's own geology and the violence that shaped it. The Andes are one of the youngest and most unstable mountain ranges on Earth. Their formation was catastrophic tectonic plates pushing upward, fracturing the bedrock into fault systems that still shift today. Machu Picchu stands directly at the junction of 2 of those faults, a location both precarious and, perhaps, deliberate. Over centuries, each tremor and landslide has altered the terrain. Torrential rains loosen the slopes, and fractured granite flows like a slow-moving glacier, sealing anything below it in compacted layers of debris. Geologists now suspect that much of Machu Picchu's substructure drainage systems, tunnels, even lower chambers lies buried under several meters of seismic fill. To the naked eye, it's invisible, but modern technology is beginning to reveal a pattern. In 2019, geologist Rualdo Menegat's ground-penetrating radar mapped irregular density zones beneath the city. They aligned almost perfectly with the same X-shaped fault pattern visible on the surface. Later satellite data confirmed those anomalies extending beyond the known perimeter, suggesting the possibility of man-made corridors continuing into the mountain's core. For years, these deeper layers were dismissed as natural cavities. Yet the new data implies something: engineered structures built into the faults themselves, later sealed by collapse and sediment. As one researcher put it, silence is not absence, it's compression. If true, that silence may be what kept Machu Picchu's greatest secret intact, not lost to time, but protected by the mountain's own design. At 2,430 meters above sea level, where oxygen thins and every step feels heavier, the mountain keeps its own silence. It was here, in 1911, that Hiram Bingham uncovered the first human remains. He believed he had found a convent of virgins of the Sun Women who lived apart, serving the emperor and the gods. For most of the 20th century, that story held. It was elegant. It made sense. a peaceful retreat, far above the chaos of the empire below. But a century later, the evidence told another story. In climate-controlled labs in Cusco and New Haven, researchers reopened Bingham's old crates. The labels were faded, the paper brittle. Inside were the same bones now placed under 3D scanners, isotope analyzers, and digital imaging. What appeared on the screens was not peace, but labor. The vertebrae were compressed, the hallmark of heavy lifting on steep slopes. Shoulder joints showed the grinding wear of years of strain. Even the teeth told a story worn flat from chewing maize laced with granite dust. These were not priestesses. They were workers' men, women, and adolescents, their bodies shaped by endurance at altitude. Then came the DNA results. Mitochondrial sequencing revealed maternal lines that stretched across the empire from the Pacific coast, from the Altiplano, from the edge of the Amazon. Machu Picchu had drawn people from every horizon of the Andes. Not a single community, but an entire network: builders, artisans, and laborers brought here for a purpose history had forgotten. Together, the bones and genomes form a map, a record of empire-level organization and sacrifice. Machu Picchu was not only a royal estate, it was an operational center, a machine of stone powered by human endurance. And in those silent remains lies the question that science still can't answer. Why did they build here, and what did they believe they were building for? In every investigation, there comes a point where data stops scattering and starts aligning. For Machu Picchu, that alignment begins deep within the mountain itself. From 2001 to 2012, survey teams used radar and satellite imaging to map the site's hidden foundation. The results repeated the same anomaly, two fault lines intersecting directly beneath the city, forming a natural X. When geologist Rualdo Menegat published his analysis in 2019, the precision was startling. The intersection ran straight through the city's heart, beneath the Temple of the Sun, the terraces, and the ceremonial plazas, as if the builders had followed an invisible blueprint written by the earth itself. The same fractures that once tore the mountain apart provided everything the Inca needed to construct it: water flow, drainage, and quarries of perfect granite. Coincidence? Perhaps. But it happens again and again, structure after structure aligned with the same seismic geometry. To probe deeper, researchers turned to muon tomography, a scanning method that traces cosmic particles as they pass through stone. The images revealed something unexpected: hollow corridors extending below the fault line, symmetrical and linear, unlike any known cave formation. Then, in 2025, new GPR surveys near the Chincana caves detected additional tunnels branching from the same axis, possible extensions of that buried network. It's a picture both precise and unsettling. A mountain shaped by tectonic violence, and yet engineered with surgical intent. If this was design, it implies a level of geological understanding centuries ahead of its time. And it raises one quiet, enduring question. Were the builders following their own plan, or the mountains? At first glance, the tools of the Inca seem simple. No steel, no wheels, no written records of design. Yet their stonework survives earthquakes that destroy modern buildings. So how did they do it? Archaeologists have long believed the Inca-shaped stone, using hammerstones and wet wooden wedges, inserting slats into fissures, soaking them until expansion split the rock cleanly. It's ingenious, but it doesn't explain everything. Along the main faults of Machu Picchu, quarry marks follow the direction of natural stress. The same orientation engineers today calculate with seismic sensors. Without instruments, the builders seemed to know exactly where the mountain would yield. They carved along compression lines, reducing shock damage and locking blocks like a flexible puzzle, a principle rediscovered in the 20th century for earthquake-resistant architecture. To the modern eye, it looks less like trial and error and more like diagnosis, as if they could read the mountain's internal pressure before cutting. That's what puzzles geologists. The level of geological intuition is centuries ahead of its documented context. How could they sense what even our LiDAR and GPR reveal only now? Some researchers call it accumulated field knowledge, refined over generations. Others whisper something older: the survival of a forgotten science, encoded in myth, passed down from builders who claimed to learn directly from the children of the sun. Whatever its origin, the evidence stands in stone. Knowledge once thought impossible, quietly embedded in every line, every joint, every fault of the living mountain. After rainfall, Machu Picchu changes. Water runs through the terraces in perfect order, every channel, every outlet working as if the system were still maintained. From the upper plateau down to the Urubamba River, More than 750 meters of stone conduits carry the flow through 16 fountains built in sequence. Each fountain regulates the next, balancing gravity, pressure, and slope. With precision, few modern engineers attempt at this scale. For decades, this was treated as coincidence, an elegant adaptation to the terrain. But recent geological mapping showed otherwise. The fountains line up directly along existing fault fractures beneath the city, the same fault grid that shapes Machu Picchu's foundation. Each outlet corresponds to a natural break in the granite, where water pressure is highest. That alignment is too consistent to ignore. It suggests design informed by geologic observation, not accident. Even more remarkable is endurance. 5 centuries of rain and earthquakes have not damaged the system. The channels flex with ground motion rather than collapse, a natural form of seismic damping unknown to Western hydrology until the 20th century. In 2025, GPR scans around the Chincana cave complex added a new layer. Beneath the last fountain, sensors detected engineered tunnels with sediment traps and ventilation shafts continuing along the same line. The final coordinate points toward the Intihuatana stone, Machu Picchu's ritual center. Surface and subsurface share the same axis, one for worship, one for function. Together, they reveal intent, a mountain engineered to control both water and movement, built by people who understood that stability begins below the ground. When evidence becomes this detailed, interpretation turns into the real frontier. How did the Inca achieve such precision, mapping the mountain's fractures, predicting the movement of water, building for earthquakes they could never have recorded? The first explanation stays within human reach. According to most archaeologists, the Inca were methodical observers of their environment, generation after generation. Builders learned by watching. They saw where springs emerged after storms, traced where vegetation thinned along invisible fault lines, and noted which stones shifted during tremors. Knowledge was not written, it was inherited through experience, over centuries. That accumulation became a science in practice, a kind of analog geology, or as one researcher calls it, a living GIS, drawn not with instruments, but with intuition, refined by time. If this view is correct, Machu Picchu is less a mystery than a monument to pattern recognition, proof of what disciplined human observation can achieve. But there is another interpretation, one harder to dismiss. In Inca tradition, the sun god Inti sent his children to teach humanity how to live with the earth, not against it. Those myths describe knowledge descending from above, where to cut mountains, where to turn rivers, where to build. Metaphor, perhaps. Or could it echo something older, fragments of a civilization whose understanding of the planet once rivaled our own? Two paths diverge, one of persistence, the other of inheritance. Both lead back to the same question: who truly designed Machu Picchu, the Inca themselves, or the memory of a world they only rediscovered? Every great civilization leaves behind more than stone, it leaves intention. At Machu Picchu, that intention still seems to whisper through its alignments. During the solstice, the first light of dawn strikes the Intihuatana stone at a perfect angle, the same axis traced by the seismic faults beneath the mountain. It's as if ritual and geology were synchronized, the worship of the sun bound to the tremors of the earth itself. In Inca ceremonies, the offering of maize and animal sacrifice wasn't just devotion. Some scholars now see it as remembrance, an echo of cataclysms the Andes once endured. Ancient flood myths from this region describe mountains splitting open, rivers reversing course, and seas rising into the highlands. Geological evidence confirms that parts of the Andes were indeed reshaped by ancient seismic floods. Myth and science, once seen as opposites, now seem to describe the same memory from two different languages. So what if the stories of Inti and the earthborn gods are not just legends, but records? Encoded memories of a world rebuilt after disaster, knowledge buried, rediscovered, and rebuilt again. If the mountain still hides more tunnels, more secrets waiting in the dark, the question is no longer if we'll find them, but what they'll make us remember. Tell us what you think in the comments and subscribe to follow the next discovery.